Data Science Festival 2022. Real life people, not on a Zoom call. Fantastic. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. So our next talk is from Clemence Burnichon. Burnichon. And her talk is Going to Love Data Island, which sounds intriguing. So a little bit about Clemence. Clemence has been working in data and AI space for over a decade. She has helped major retailers and e-commerces like Sainsbury's and Net-a-Porter realize value, leveraging innovative and smart capabilities. She joined ITV in January 2021 and is currently the Director of Data Innovation. Her role covers all areas of technology within data, building teams of data scientists, data engineers, platform engineers, and machine learning specialists, creating value across the whole of ITV. It just rolls off the tongue. Round of applause for Clemence, please, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, right? So I hope it's not going to be as much as a mouthful as this one. So let's start. So first things first. Do we have the slides? Starting really, really well. So I'll start with the disclaimer. Yeah. So at ITV, probably everybody knows Love Island. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go into too much detail about Love Island, so sorry for the bit of a fake advertising. But I'm going to talk about our journey in data at ITV. So just to give you a bit of a timeline. So last quarter of last year, and this quarter of this year, we're starting doing a bit of an assessment of what our data landscape was like and our roadmap, etc. So what we realized was we had a data quality issue. We had a bit of a problem in terms of an alignment with the business, and we didn't really have the right structure. So what it meant was, well, we had some not so great data, people doing some stuff that didn't really deliver value for the business, and we had a bit of every role all around the place, but not much thoughts behind it. So what we thought was, well, we absolutely need a new approach to data. So what we did was Q2 this year, we started to create that new approach. And so what we went for was a new set of principles. We thought we need to put rules. What are going to be the rules of the game for data at ITV? What are the new concepts we can bring in? And it comes down to bringing people like me from outside, bringing people like my colleagues that are working at ITV as well in data. And a big thing was a cultural change. It is great to do data, it is great to have a great strategy, but if you don't change the way the business sees data and the way the business has been working, it doesn't really make much of a change and much of an impact, really. So, our approach. So, the approach is an outcome-based, value-prioritized approach to data through iterative development and of data product. That's a lot to take on. I agree with you. And so I'm gonna unpack it a little bit. So what does outcome-based mean? Well, it means we don't just build a model for somebody. We don't just give some data about some people that did something at some point for somebody. We don't give a count or something like that. We don't just ingest data for the sake of it. We don't just build a dashboard for somebody that just wanted a dashboard. What we do is we build whatever is necessary to create value. Models, dashboards, infrastructure, ingestion pipeline, whatever you need to create that value, we'll build it. We care about the last mile activation. It sounds like a kind of a buzzword marketing thing, but what it means is basically you can build the best thing in the world, the best model in the world, but if you don't put it in production, and if you don't put it with your CRM platform or on your platform, your hub platform, for example, or your streaming platform or something like that, it's worth just about nothing. And the last one is we partner with the business. So we could go and build something amazing and link it to everything, but if people in the business don't want to use it, or if we are not solving the problem that the business actually wants to solve, then again, we don't have any value from it. If we continue to look a little bit into that strategy and unpack it a little bit more, what does value prioritize? How do we calculate value of things? So I'll give you 2 examples. First thing we're thinking about building, journey 1. So what we want is to have regular campaign promoting Up Plus. For the ones that don't know, I do a bit of advertising as well. Up Plus is our platform to watch ITV content. And we want to activate that through Facebook audience. We have data, historical data, that tells us that around 5% of the people we will contact on Facebook will actually go and purchase a subscription for ITV Plus. So, you tell me, is that enough to actually get a value out of it? Well, the answer is, it's enough to do a good back-of-the-envelope calculation of it. So what is it? Let's say we do a campaign per week. There's about 52 weeks, well, not just about, there is 52 weeks in a year. Let's say for 7 weeks, there's something that happened. It's Christmas, it's Easter, whatever it is. And we don't do anything about it for that specific timeline. So let's say we do that for 45 weeks per year. Let's say we talk to 100K people per campaign. 5% of them actually purchase a subscription with 5,000 people. The value of a subscription, and it's just a number that I took out of it, it's not necessarily the exact number, is about £4, and then what we get is about 900K of value. So it's quite a good one, 900K for a year, it's not too bad. Journey 2, so the other side of it is we want to get more users to watch more content on the app. So let's say we think that people have space in their time to watch 1 more hour of content. So what we know is that there's about 10% of our active users that have headroom to watch that hour of content. So what does it look like then? So 1 additional hour of content per week, 8 million active users per week. 10% will watch more. 1 hour of content, let's say it's £3 of revenue ads. Again, caveated that it's not actual numbers. And so the actual value ends up being 2.4 million. Well, now the value is clear. Which one is the most valuable for us? The last part of the strategy is around iterative development of data products. So if you look at that cake, that beautiful rainbow cake, before you eat it, you kind of want to look at it a little bit and look at the different layers you have. So once you have a strategy and you want to start putting it in place, you kind of have, okay, I need infrastructure. Well, I need a bit of data governance, right? I need to ingest the data. I need to prep it. I need to do models and all that. And so if you do it in layers, it takes you about a year to do the infrastructure. Another 6 months, and I'm being nice, for the governance. And then about a year again for ingestion. Then you've got 6 months for ETLs. Then you've got years of models. And by then, you're already like 2-3 years down the line. You still haven't delivered any value for the business. So what our approach was to say, we're not going to do layers. We're not just going to build like the platform with bells and whistles and the golden-plated version of it. We're going to go for slice of it. So we'll build a little bit of platform, exactly what we need. We'll build a little bit of the governance that we need for that specific piece of the journey. Then we'll build the ingestion for the specific data points we need for that journey. And then we'll build whatever is on top of that to reach the value. And so what it gives us is, for a certain amount of time, let's say to build all those pieces takes you 6 months. At the end of the 6 months, you have in place a journey and infrastructure and all the tech that you need to create value. So that means that if you refer it to the last action where you will go and do in layers, then you have 2.5 years where you create value with that specific journey while you still have time to build something else during those 2.5 years. So it's kind of a win-win situation for everybody. So once we set kind of the rules of engagement, we started looking at, okay, we've got a good plan, we've got a good way of thinking about it, so how do we set ourselves up for success? And so what we did was looking at a new operating model. So how are we going to, how are we going to create teams to do that? how are they going to work? What are the roles that goes into those teams? How do we set up our platform so we can actually do that slice approach, that small pieces that we want? How do we make it so when it comes the moment to scale it up, well, we're not in a problem of we can't scale because we looked at it and it's too small now. So that was really thinking about what can we do now, how can we set ourselves up for success for today, but also for the future. So our operating model, so we introduced a new concept, the concept of a data mesh. So what is a data mesh other than a nice concept and a good set of words going together? It's a centralized platform team that creates infrastructure as a service. So what it means is a collection of usually platform engineer and a couple of other people that create our infrastructure on. We are AWS house, so on an AWS cloud computing platform, and then they made the platform agnostic, so we can actually just use it as a service. And the other part is a decentralized cross-functional team that will work embedded into business domain. And we have identified 9 of them. So there's a little bit of everything. It works across the whole of ITV. So it goes from, like the most common one you will see in most companies. So, the marketing, the advertising, something big for us around viewer and audience. It is definitely a big priority in there. But also, we want to explore the studio, the HR side of it, the finance side of it. And so all those domains will get a team that will be able to support their strategy from the data point of view. And so to be able to create those teams in a manner that make them autonomous and enable them to really be empowered to make the right decision, to build the right tech, to support the business, to create the value, etc., we have a certain number of roles in those teams. So I mentioned the platform team, where you've got platform engineers, but inside of that, because we are very keen on also building the security aspect and the governance aspect, we also have a security engineer in there. And then we have a product owner. So that's the person that says, okay, those are the priority for the platform for the next X month, and going forward, here's the roadmap, so we can support whatever journey is coming. And then for the cross-functional team, it's kind of if you look at the team, it's almost like you already have a way to do a project. So you've got the data engineer. They come in, they ingest the data, they create the pipelines, they make the data available and ready. And then you've got the data scientists that start building the models, productionize their model. And then you've got the data analysts, which usually start getting the dashboard, etc. On top of it, some of the analysis and some of the analytics work. 2 key roles in those domains are going to be what we call the strategy lead, which is the kind of equates to a product manager. They are the leader of that team from the perspective of the priorities of that team and how they kind of orchestrate that team to work together towards those journeys. And they also are the link to the business. They are extremely business aligned, and they are very much aligned with what we call the business domain owner. The business domain owner is a person that is sitting in the business. Not a technical person, not a data person. That person is somebody like, maybe the CMO, maybe the head of marketing, maybe the commercial director, something like that. They are the person that know what the domain needs to be successful, and they know what the domain roadmap and way to create value is going to be, but they don't know how data will create anything for them. They don't care about the tech, they care about where they're going to get the value. And so the strategy lead and the business domain owner are actually working very closely to get to that point of, I have an outcome I want to reach, but I don't know how to do it. And that's why we have those teams to do it, because they will create that outcome for them. When it comes to our data platform, we again set a certain set of principles. One, security and governance, built it in, not bolted on. Finish the time where you build a hacky thing and then you realize that you were not GDPR compliant, you could be subjected to a data breach any time of the day, and everybody in the business had access to everybody's email in the platform. We don't want that. First, we probably don't have the money to pay for all the fine that will go with it. But also, we want to be able to tell our people, our users, that their data are secured. So that's why it's one of the principles we have. Next principle is, first we'll make it work, then we'll make it good, then we'll make it great. Iterative process, build small, build things that, okay, that works, we can do better, but then we'll iterate. Third one, follow a certain set of data quality standard. Why? Because if the business doesn't trust the data you have because it's not a good quality data, then you already lost the battle before you even build anything. And three last principles that are really, really bound to the tech. It's we need to be able to discover our data product, our data sets, our models. So we need to catalog that. So there's not that time where, I don't know if you've been in a company like that. You arrive in a company and you say, oh, where can I find data about a marketing campaign? And everybody looks at you like you're a crazy person. And they tell you, well, they are in the CRM platform. And it's kind of like that land where you cannot cross. You can't reach that part. The data, they don't exist. You don't know what's in it. And then there's the other part where you say, but how do you calculate consumption for users? And then you have somebody that says, well, we take all the hours they've watched, and then we just add them up. Okay, that's fair. And then there's another say, yeah, well, we do that in commercial, but we don't take the ones on a Sunday from 9 a.m. to 12 because usually there's nobody. And you're kind of like, okay, so you have already two ways of measuring that, right? And then there's a third one and a fourth one, etc. And so the way we do it when we catalog things is to avoid that. I don't want to have a discussion with somebody or 5 somebodies that tell me how to calculate churn rate or whatever else, really. So that's one of the things we actually take very, very much at heart, to have one way of measuring things and one way that is cataloged somewhere and discoverable for the whole business. Then standardization. I will never say it enough, and there's people in the audience that are from my team and are from my team, and they will tell you, I'll say that probably too often. Standardization and consistency across platform is a must. Why? Because you don't want to have 3 CI/CD pipelines. You don't want to have 50 different ways of doing something, because you want to have all your engineers, all your data scientists, all you people be able to read any code in any part of the code base, any system, and be able to just jump in and help. Because if you have people that are on call, you don't want them to have to call that specific person at 2 a.m. because something doesn't work and they decided to write it in, PyTorch and not use the normal CI/CD that everybody else is using. I mean, if I'm the person at 2 a.m., I don't want to be woken up for that, really. And the last one is build versus buy mentality. It's not about buying everything. It's not about building everything. It's about building the right stuff that will create a competitive advantage for us, but also taking advantage of commodity, of technology that is commoditized. Is there things that we'll be able to leap in time and not have to build the full thing? So if I look a little bit at what our data product look like, small version of it. So it's our smallest unit. Often people look at data product and they think that the last output is the data product. For us, data product is a system. So it has input ports. So we bring something in, and it has output port. And then he has a bunch of things around it. He has its own infrastructure. It is registered, discoverable, etc. And then for every data product, you've got a set of logs, a set of metadata, and a set of internal file. And then the output port can be, a database, an API, a S3 bucket, whatever else you can think of, really, depending on it. And once you've got those data products, or once you want to create a data product, what does it take? So I thought I had to put some code in those slides, really. So here you get it. It is a bit of Terraform code. Sorry for the Python and Scala lover. But basically, what it takes to create a data product is a very automated and standardized Terraform module that tells you, well, there is a role, there is a data bucket, a S3 bucket attached to it, and some secrets. And then that is in a repo where you have all your data products that are registered into that. And then you've got the bespoke part of it, that is the core code of the functionality of the data product itself. So you've got a Spark job. Most of what we have today is actually powered through Spark jobs that does the transformation. And then you've got the orchestration of it. So we use Airflow for that. So it's scheduling something at 2 a.m. in the morning, or it's also making sure that data products chain one to another in the right way. So one finished, the other one starts, and not everybody starts at the same time, and there's no data for the second one. And the last part is the Jenkins pipeline for CI/CD, extremely important. If you can't deploy your code, then why are you writing it, really? So back to our example. So that was kind of the most valuable journey we looked at. And so what does it look like in terms of infrastructure? So we've got our source system. And one will be something where we collect data for viewer data, and then the other one is whatever is happening. We get events as people start watching things. So we create ingestion product, similar as any other product. It's a system, same infrastructure, same concept of being registered, etc. And so we have a viewer product, viewer data, that basically tells us who, this user is, located around there, and etc. And then you've got the viewing data that tells you this person watched this thing at that time, etc. So they watch Coronation Street, they watch Love Island, they watch whatever else you can watch on the ITV, really. And then you combine and chain those two data products to say, well, OK, I'm going to build a headroom model. So I'm going to find out, by using those data, who's the person that has more headroom for that hour of content. And then that model, it's not just a model. It's not just some training data. It's not just some API somewhere or whatever. It is the whole thing. It is how I get my training data, how I retrain my model, or I have a registry of my model, how I've created an API, a REST API to be able to do prediction, etc. And so that's my data product. And then, remember, talk about last mile activation. I can't forget it about now. And the last part is, how do we connect that API to our CRM platform so we can actually activate that if needed? Because obviously, while we think people have time for more content, we still need to prompt them to watch more content. And maybe it's about, recommending them the right content, or, prompting them to come back to the app or something like that. So that's good, right? That's one journey. Well, actually, what it looks like the real thing will look like is, for one domain, it looks like that. So that first journey I showed you could be very well here. And then there's other journey. And all that we power it through with Databricks Workspace. And we still have Airflow and Jenkins. That's kind of like the main tooling around it. And it's around one business domain. And then we have AWS platform under it. And so that's for one domain. For 2 domains, I'm not going to show you for 9 domains, but it's the same thing as many times as needed, really. And it will enable us to scale. As I said before, we need to start thinking about the future. So if we know that today we have one domain, how do we scale? Well, we scale by being able to recreate those in a very nice and simple fashion, and that with technology that supports that. So now we're at the point where we actually prepared ourselves. We know kind of what we want to build. We know where we want to go. And so today, what we have is we have a platform that is live. So the first domain version I showed you is actually live. We already created 3 of our data products. We ingest data and output some of them and create some of the first journey. And then we're starting to look at the first value being delivered around February next year. And so you will ask me, well, that's all good and great, like you've got a good plan, but what does the future look like? Well, it looks like more domains, more teams. It looks like an evolution of the capabilities on the platform. And the last one, I mean, I can say it better than Rihanna, right? We just make the money. No. So yeah, so if you want to join, if you want to be part of that journey and continue on it, this is my email, not my personal one, the business one. And please join. We're looking for data engineer, data scientist, product owner, platform engineer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll be around if you want to talk about it, and I'll be happy to give you more details. But I'm going to open it to question now.
Round of applause for Clemence, please. Thank you. First question, what's the salary like?
Sorry?
What's the salary like?
Depends how good you are.
I'm amazing.
I'll trust it when I see it on paper.
Any questions for Clemence, please? Okay, I actually have a load of questions for you because our organisation is in a situation where it could really do with someone like you. So I'll start things off. So in your presentation, you talked about the slices instead of layers, which I think is an amazing approach. But were there any specific challenges you have in doing that? Also, when you're trying to scale out a slice into a particular layer?
There is some challenges when you start. Before you do your first slice, there is a couple of things that you need to have before you actually do slices. There is a foundational piece that you need. So, like, I can't have a slice of an AWS account. I can't have a slice of, a Jenkins pipeline or a Jenkins deployment or an Airflow deployment. I can have smaller version of it. I can have it without all the wheels and bells and etc. But there is a couple of things that you need to put in place. But it is a matter of a matter of weeks rather than a matter of years. So you need to think about what are the kind of like the foundational pieces, and then that will enable your team to go and start working.
Thank you. Anyone from the audience got a question? Sorry, I need to keep ducking my head. Oh, 2 at the back. Okay. So the way we're doing questions is that you relay the question to me and I relay it to the room, so we don't swap the mics and inadvertently spread everything. So we'll go with the guy in the beautiful jumper first. Oh, and if we can do it one line at a time, that makes it much easier for me.
So my question is that
all this process of decision-making? And the entire strategy and pipeline sounds great. But it's not it's something that you need to drive through to design it. Okay, did you get that? There are a lot of uncertainties when you do that, and how do you get through those?
So there's always going to be uncertainty in what you build and how you do it. So the way we do it is, I went through a couple of our principles. Well, we stick to our principle. And we'll discuss whatever comes up. We have architects to go through the how do we make that kind of design aspect reflect those principles, and that actually really helps us putting in place the right things. But it's a constant communication between the team. We have a governance, we call it a governance board. It sounds like a big name, but it's like a recurring meeting where we talk about governance, what's coming and could be a risk, what's coming and we need to think about when we architect. When we do elaboration around whatever we're going to build, it's always the question, okay, how would you do it? And then we go for a couple of ways of doing it. And then it's like, okay, what does what could be the risk in the future? Obviously, technology goes fast. Tomorrow, AWS can come in and say, "Oh, we found that way of doing things, and here's a new service, and it does all this." And then maybe we scrap it and we say, "Well, actually, we're going to use that service." And that's agility. That's why we do Slice, because it enables us to do a very good agile methodology behind it and to really pivot if needed. So I think it's really that. It's about like good planning, good design behind it, and thinking that your roadmap, you can't fix it for a year. We're not doing waterfall, that's why. And so we'll pivot if needed.
Thank you. I believe you had a question?
So I assume that your company is like a startup or like you're already quite big. And my previous company, one of the main problems we had because we were like a big company.
So one of the problems they have at their company is quite big.
Yeah, so normally in a big company, sometimes your IT department is outsourced, sometimes in another country,
Sometimes the IT department is outsourced in another country,
and the IT department is key for these sort of projects.
and the IT department being key for these kind of projects.
So in your company, how is that split between people working on IT outsourced versus in-house, and what are your plans bringing the things in or keeping the outsourcing?
So, and how is that split in your company? Are things kind of done in-house and outsourced? How is that split?
Yeah, no, I got it anyway. I think there's a couple of things to impact. So one is, yes, we are a big enough company to have outsourcing. Two is, outsourcing is one thing, but usually when you outsource, you consider those people being, not necessarily full permanent member, but being close enough to be trusted with whatever you build. The bringing in-house, I think it's a decision that can be made, but it's not necessarily right away in the roadmap. We have some people offshore. We have people onshore. We will have people across the UK very soon. It's just a ways of working. It's making sure that people have the right tool to communicate, people have the right tool to be at the same time at least 5 hours a block if they are in India, or 5 hours a block if they are in the US, etc. So I think it's more on the ways of working than the complexity of the platform itself. Putting in place the right ways of working and the right communication inside one team is actually the key to make sure that we don't encounter a problem with that. And you mentioned something about the IT department being a little bit outside. That's why we create those cross-functional teams, because actually nobody is outside of the team. Out of all the roles that I described, they all sit in data, and all the ones that are genuinely tech, from the platform and up to the data scientists, they all report into me, which makes it a lot easier to have common ways of working across all those teams, and the operating model changes that we made.
Cool, thank you, Clemence. Any more questions? Oh, there's a chap at the back. By the way, if anyone else has a question, please put your hand up so I can come and stand next to you and get ready. Hello. Very good presentation. The process seems very logical and professional.
But hasn't there been, people from the business, like marketing and so on, asking for deliveries of profit or, earlier, starting out with small projects, delivering value fast and then building the organization? I mean, hasn't there been people asking whether that would be maybe a better approach?
Sorry, I lost that, but just answer the question anyway.
So I think I got it, but I might answer a little bit outside because I might not have gotten everything you said. But so there is always, whatever the approach you take, there is always going to be somebody from marketing, somebody from the business in general that will come and want more. That's why we have priorities. And that's why we work very closely with them as business, for them to be business owner, domain business owner, because they will drive those priorities and they will help us, and it's a trade-off. You know, ultimately it's kind of like, yeah, I could do, we can only do so many projects, we can only do so many things at once. What are your, you know, biggest pain point, the biggest value, etc. And then we work with them. So we will have, I'm sure, in the future, people that ask for more and people that ask for this, that, and that. But ultimately, because we work very closely with them, they're very aware of, you know, the capacity we have to give them whatever, a journey, multiple journeys. Because as we go, like I show you only one journey, but actually in a team and a cross-functional team, we will end up having multiple journeys worked on in parallel, etc. So there won't be just one thing that delivers value. It would be a lot bigger. And then when you have more domain, you have more domain delivering value for the different part of the business. I hope you answered your question.
Cool, thank you very much. I don't think there's any more questions. There we go. Clemence, thank you so much. A round of applause for Clemence, please.
Thank you very much.